Hey, what's up YouTube? Dom, the smartphone guy, coming back at you with another video, and today I want to share with you my 4-day impressions of this device right here. This is the Moto G5s Plus. So this is a phone that I've had now for 4 days, as I mentioned, and during that time I got a real good chance to get real cozy with these cameras on the back. Got a chance to really use these a lot while I was on vacation with my wife. Supposed to do a color tour, but it turns out Michigan wasn't ready for colors. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that off to the side, and we're going to go talk about this phone. So right now it is available at a number of online retailers. I actually picked it up from Best Buy, so I'll go ahead and show you that. So it's available for $230 at Best Buy. That's the version I have. So the version I have comes with 32 gigs of onboard storage and 3 gigs of RAM. There is a version also with 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of onboard storage, and as you can see, it's available in basically just gray and gold. So I have the gray version, the lunar gray version, and again, this is $230. Now, technically, that is actually a promotional price. It is supposed to go up $50 at some point. I don't know when, but that is going to happen at some point, or at least that's what Motorola tells us. So $230 right now for the version I have, $300 for the upgraded version. So let's go ahead and talk about this device and whether it is worth considering at that price point. So first thing we want to talk about is the build quality. So in terms of build, you can see obviously we have a front firing or front facing fingerprint sensor. I'm not even sure what you want to call that. We do also have a speaker up here. We have our camera up here. That is a 5 megapixel camera on the front. We have a flash as well, front facing flash, which I will mention the screen protector that's currently on here is actually designed for the Moto E4 Plus. So I haven't put on the actual G5s Plus screen protector on there yet. So we have our volume rocker and power button. Both feel nice and tactile. Now there is just a little bit of a give to both of them. So that might be a slight negative. We have micro USB down here for charging it. But one thing I will mention here that I like, that's a change from the Moto G5 Plus without the S, so again, without the S there, is the build is a little bit nicer. So that one had a plasticky outer here, a little outer ring, and then a metal build in the middle, whereas this one has an all metal backing. So that's a plus for me. And then also we have that Motorola dimple, which I kind of like too. And we also have a 5.5-inch display versus a 5.2-inch display. So all of those things I think are nice upgrades from the Moto G5 Plus. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the performance. So performance-wise, basically the exact same phone that you get with the Moto G5 Plus. We have the Snapdragon 625 processor, and that is a very snappy processor. Going from app to app is absolutely no problem. It loads things up very quickly. You can see that obviously going from app to app within the RAM management does really well. It's all very snappy. Games play quite well as long as you're not talking about the heaviest games. So some games that I've been playing with it, Beach Buggy Racing, NBA Jam, some hill climb racing, all those games run very fluid. Snapdragon 625 processor, if you're familiar with it, is not only a snappy processor, but it's also very battery friendly. So in terms of the processing power, 2 gigahertz Snapdragon 625 processor, thumbs up. This is a great device for that. Now the next area when I talk about is the battery life. So battery life, again, is another area where this thing really shines. That's definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. I have been able to easily get through every single day with a good 20, 30, even 40% battery life. So the more I was using the camera, obviously, the less battery I was getting, but in general, battery life has been fantastic. At least 6 hours of screen on time every single day, which is very good. Like I mentioned, 20, 30, even 40% battery remaining every single day. It does come with a 10-watt turbocharger as well in the package. One negative of the battery, of course, is that we have micro USB for charging it, but that is, not a huge negative, but it is there. It is something that maybe isn't I wish Motorola would definitely upgrade to Type C. I'm not sure why they haven't done that yet, but you get what you get on this $230 device. So the next area to talk about is the software. And again, this is another area where Motorola really shines. The one negative, just a slight negative, I would say with the software is Motorola has not been known lately to upgrade their devices as quickly as they used to. So on this we have Android 7.1.1. So we do have Android N available, so that is a nice option. And Motorola has some nice tweaks in their software with that Moto Action app. So if we come up here to Moto Actions, you can see we have one button nav, so that's what I've been using here. So I can swipe backwards to go back, I can swipe to the right to go between different apps. At least my recent apps. And then we have chop twice for flashlight, so that works whether the phone's on or off, so you kind of have to shake it pretty hard there. So there's the flashlight, shut it off. Kind of hard because I'm doing it in a small area. So chop twice, there we go. All right. And then we also have the shake it to turn the cameras on, so awesome. All of those features are very nice. I really like that from Motorola. Now again, software-wise, this thing is absolutely fantastic. Basically, just stock Android with the Moto Actions app. Now, this version is not a carrier version, so you're not going to get carrier bloatware, so that's awesome. This will work on all 4 major carriers in the United States, so again, that's awesome as well. So far, so good. This thing is just absolutely shining in just about all those areas. So the next thing I want to talk about is the dual cameras on the back. So we have 13 megapixel cameras on the back, dual 13 megapixel cameras, which for me was kind of one of the areas I was intrigued about. I wanted to see how Motorola did with that. So first thing I want to do before I get too far into this is I just want to show you some of the pictures that I've taken so far. And I'm also going to do a slideshow at the end of this video just so you can see what the pictures have looked like. So that was one I just took. Kind of ignore that one. So this is one just using depth effect, so you can see that the depth is enabled in that one. And one thing I really like about the depth effect, so if we go into the depth editor here, is we have some pretty cool little options here. So we have the original, we have selective black and white, which actually works pretty good. So if we come in here and select that, see how that's a really cool feature, especially like for something like that in the fall with the really cool colors on that leaf. It can turn everything else to black and white, which is just, that's a really cool feature. I do like that a lot. We'll go ahead and discard that one. So that was a picture I actually took with this device. We have the selective focus, which is kind of automatic. So again, we'll select the layer, and now we can select how out of focus we want the background. So we can just kind of adjust that blur. So again, another nice option there. And then we can replace the background, which is kind of cool. So let's go ahead and put that in there, and then we'll replace the background with this picture. For some reason, if you ever want to do that, it's just kind of cool. So I actually did that where I put my wife's picture in a totally different picture at one point. It worked out really well. It actually looks quite real. Now, the one thing I want to mention about the depth effect on this phone, so that's using the dual cameras, is that to me it feels very software focused. It doesn't feel like it actually is something that it's using the 2 cameras. I'm not really sure that it actually is using the 2 cameras to get that depth effect. And so sometimes it works really well, like in a really obvious picture where the background and the foreground is really obvious, but in other pictures where that's not as obvious, it doesn't do a very good job. So this is just a picture of a snake that I took while I was out walking. That was a really tiny snake, by the way. And this is a picture I wanted to show you because of how poorly I think this phone made this look. So this was actually a sunrise. You can see it's super yellow in the picture, not really the colors that it actually was. So it didn't do a very good job with that. And then it didn't do a very good job of really picking up that blue sky. So another picture that was actually on the way to work. This is an indoor shot. Actually did a decent job, I thought, with this indoor shot. So this is bed and breakfast that my wife stayed at on our weekend. So another indoor shot here, kind of over blue. Some of the lighting there, obviously that was not how bright it was, but it did a decent job indoors there with that shot. This is just a little slow-mo picture. Now it only shoots in 720 at slow-mo. Now this is a obvious little silhouette at the sunset. I will say this, that it does struggle with colors. So when you have some kind of weird lighting going on, like with a sunset, it does kind of struggle with that. Not very realistic. I mean, it looks cool because of the coloring, but that's not really what it looked like. There's a little selfie shot there. So again, another sunset there. Again, these all look far better with the other 2 cameras I brought with me, the HTC 11 and the iPhone 8 Plus. Definitely did a much better job of getting more realistic colors in here. So you can see my wife looks quite orange in that picture, even though obviously she's not orange. We do have a depth enabled in this one, so I could come in and again, I can show you how that works. So we'll go back in here and let's go ahead and do that. And we'll select her, and now it kind of did black and white, but notice that it kind of struggled over here. It actually gave color to that stuff. So it says it's in beta, as you can see. Now this is kind of cool. We can go in here and I can select her as the foreground. It's totally messing that up, but let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, I'm not sure what it did there. So, anyways, it's kind of fun to mess around with that. That's really about all it is. It does shoot in 4K with those rear cameras. Um, but again, it doesn't have any kind of, it just has electronic image stabilization. So it will definitely get a little bit choppy in terms of your video if you don't keep your hand still or if you're walking with it. You're going to have those issues. But overall, I would say the cameras, for me, were just a bit of a letdown. I really kind of, the Moto G5 without the S here, the Moto G5 Plus, I thought actually had better cameras. Obviously, they weren't as fun because you don't have those depth effects and things like that. But I felt like the one camera on that phone was better than the two cameras on this one, and mainly because of the issue it has with lighting. With weird lighting situations, it always kind of was just slow to focus, really slow to focus actually. Like, let me give you an example of, I'll go ahead and take a quick picture, and I'll just enable the depth effect so you guys can see just how slow it takes a picture here. So we'll just try to do a quick picture of the box itself. So I hit it, and it's saving, it's saving, it's saving. And that's why I think a lot of it is just software focused. So now let's do the same thing without depth enabled. And we'll just take a quick picture here. So again, kind of slow. The shutter's a little bit slow there. So that's just and another thing is that when you take it, it looks kind of, the picture doesn't look very good, but then once it comes into focus, it actually looks fairly decent. Again, I'm kind of mixed on the cameras with this one. I'll show up all of those videos in full resolution at the end of this video. But the cameras are a little bit of a mixed bag for me. That's the one area where I would say this phone is not fantastic. All the other areas that I mentioned, build, performance, battery life, and the software, all are very good. The speaker is decent. It's not a front firing speaker, but a bottom firing speaker, which is slightly different than in the original one. So we'll go ahead and take a quick listen to that. But other than that, I would say this phone really does shine in most areas. But the two areas I'd say, the camera's not particularly great, especially in the weird lighting, and then the speaker, the bottom firing speaker. I definitely would have preferred a similar speaker to what we had in the G5 Plus, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and come back in here, and let's see if I have something real quick that is... Alright, I guess I'll have to actually look something up. So, royalty, I actually have to spell it with an R. Royalty-free beats, just for fun. And we'll go in here and play some royalty-free beats. So not bad, actually. Right up to my microphone. Okay, so it's not bad. It's not a terrible speaker. I just would have preferred a front-firing speaker. So overall, is this phone worth it? Yeah. I mean, if cameras aren't super important to you, like if you don't mind having to mess with the cameras to get a good shot, then yeah, it's not bad. And then also, of course, those depth effects are fun to try to mess with. Now, the results are really mixed with it, so you'll have to take a few shots in order to get the right one. But they're fun. But that's the one area that I would say that this phone really kind of struggles a little bit. So I'll be interested to see what the Moto X4, if the dual cameras on that one are better than what we get with this one. I hope they are, because that phone is a $400 phone versus only $230 for this one. But overall, I would say as long as the cameras aren't super important to you, the Moto G5s Plus is definitely a fantastic device in just about every area, with the exception of the cameras. So thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.